Hello TBC people and welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing a recent mock of mine, which is really just another fusion similar to the one I did last time, but this one is of water and earth elements and it's a bike this time. So yeah, let's get into it. Now before making this guy, I actually had a few criteria as I normally do, and one of them was to only use parts from two vehicles of each of these ninja, being Nia and Cole. And so for Nia's vehicle, I ended up just choosing the Water Strider, since it's just one of those vehicles which had a nice mixture of black and trans blue pieces, which would obviously blend really well in with any of Cole's vehicles. And I originally wanted to do a mech type thing so that I could do maybe Samurai X with Cole, but Cole hasn't really gotten that decent of a mech besides his Firestone mech, I would say, and I don't have that set, so yeah, couldn't really do that. And so instead I just chose to make it a bike, and since the Water Strider has lots of black pieces, as I said, it just made it a really easy thing to do. And as for Cole's vehicle, you guys can probably tell that it is his blaster bike from Possession. And yeah, I think that's a good vehicle. It's a very good bike. It definitely had a lot of features which made it a lot more Cole-like with its bulk, and also I've tried to smooth it down. And yeah, this is how it's gone. Another one of the criteria was to fit either Cole or Nia in one at a time, and to make it look somewhat natural for them to be sitting inside. Now, the seating thing, I'll get into that later, but it had to look somewhat natural with them and somewhat look like this could be one of their own vehicles. And so that's something I really tried to do well. And in case you guys are wondering why I've chosen these two specific minifigures, I was originally going to do Possession Cole and Possession Nia, since they were the ones which came from the Possession wave, which this vehicle is originally from, I guess. I ended up just changing it to Hands of Time Cole and Hunted Nia, just because the color scheme fits in a little better. So yeah, and the last criteria for this vehicle was that it needed to feature both earth and water elements, as I did with my previous one, but instead that one was fire and lightning. And as previously mentioned, with all my mocks from now on, I'm actually just going to be focusing on one specific area. I obviously try to make all of them look pretty good and work pretty well, but for this specific one, it was just the colors that I really wanted to focus on. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright guys, so starting off with like the front wheel, you guys can tell that pretty much nothing is changed from the original blaster bike. I've kept the two golden blades. I was gonna change them, but I really didn't know what to change them with. I wanted to change them with some water elements, but there really wasn't much from the Water Strider, so maybe I should have picked a little bit of a better set, but I still think that Water Strider has probably one of the most water elements on there, so yeah. But yeah, completely kept the same at the front area. Moving a little further back, you guys can see that I've included these slopes with Nia's logos on them on both sides. And in my opinion, this actually looks a lot better than it did originally, mainly just because of how smooth and flushed out it looks now. Originally, it used those really thick sort of rock pieces, and that was to represent Cole's earth, obviously. But by adding this, in my opinion, it just looks more like a sleek vehicle, and it definitely works a lot more for a Nia. Now, moving on to this front panel sort of area, I guess. I've kept the same Cole panel, and underneath it still has that pipe and all that stuff. As I said, I did just change the slopes though, but the attachment method completely the same, nothing changed. But on the slope this time, there is the Nia Water Strider logo with the cannons, and this actually just comes straight from the cockpit. I didn't really know what else to take. I think it looks really good though, since if you pull up the cannons or the stud shooters, you guys can see how that all lines up really well. I think that looks spectacular in my opinion. It also just provides a nice splash of color needed from the front, since you can't really see much blue otherwise. Moving further back till behind the wheel, you guys can see that pretty much nothing has changed. As I said, I've added the cockpit sort of attachment from the Water Strider there, and that kind of covers up the control panel. But I'd happily have this over the control panel, since that really doesn't do much for me. But yeah, pretty much just covers that up, but you still get the little handle, the little standing area, and to standing, it's the same method as the original. You just push their legs through there, and you can do that for both minifigures, just like that. And yeah, pretty simple. Further back, you guys can see that on top of the Cole banner, which was originally there, sorry guys, but none of my mocks are quality control tested. I've said that about 50 times throughout my videos so far, so apologize for that. and yeah, that means that many of the parts will just come off much easier. But on top of the Cole banner, which is already there, I added a Nia banner with 2 flags. And while you guys may ask what the point of that is, since the Nia one is so much shorter than the Cole one, by adding 2 flags onto the Nia one, it kind of balances it all out in my opinion. So yeah, I like that. Also, very subtle change is that I changed this slope here from sand green to just grey to be a little more neutral towards both ninjas. And I think that looks a little better. The sand green was a weird inclusion originally, in my opinion, since Cole didn't really have sand green on his outfit. So yeah, just by adding that, I think it looks a little better. Now on the side here, originally there were those really nicely stickered pieces, which just made it look so much more bulky. And I would have liked to keep them, since they did actually keep it pretty slick, even though they were quite bulky. But instead, I've just replaced them with trans clear tiles on both sides. They're both in blue. And yeah, they just come from the Water Strider. They come on the legs, I believe. And yeah, they're there. Also, another thing is that in terms of these sort of engine pieces, I guess, the thrusts, I guess, instead of having the gold ones like on the original, I actually replaced them with these grey ones, which are found on the Water Strider. And I actually think that looks a lot better than before, just because before it just looked a lot more like a Cole vehicle, since Nia barely uses gold nowadays, to be honest. So yeah, just by swapping it out with the grey one, I think that looks a lot better. But in terms of the way they attach, I'm pretty sure they're exactly the same. Maybe the positioning is different, but yeah, pretty similar overall. But at the ends of them, I've also included these water sort of discs, which came on the Water Strider, and I pretty much didn't change them at all. They came on the side of the cockpit, and I think that looks really good. You can turn them in to make it more of a Cole vehicle, since it kind of covers up the water a little more, or you can turn them out when it's Nia driving the vehicle, and I think that's really good. In terms of the back wheel, nothing has changed at all, but if you guys do actually turn these in, it actually makes a pretty funny sound. Pretty funny, just something to note, I guess. And on the side here, I've actually replaced whatever was there with some more Nia flagpole pieces, just because I think it balances out the color a lot better, since underneath it is a brown tile, so yeah. Now in terms of the cannons, which were my favorite play feature of the original one, since I didn't want to change it, since they're already pretty good, I ended up just keeping them there. And I think that they sort of accommodate the Water Strider cannons up here really nicely. When you lift them up, they look like they're sort of all interconnected, even though the colors are different, but they still look really interconnected, and I really like that. But in terms of the studs on there, I actually replaced half of them with blue ones. And this is actually something I would suggest you guys do with a lot of your mocks if you guys want to fuse them. Just change the colors of some of the pieces. That really just helps it a lot to become a fusion. So yeah, quick tips I guess. I definitely do like the trans light blue over the gold, since gold really isn't that much of a Cole color anymore. But yeah, that's how that looks. And in terms of the way it drives, you guys have seen it all video rolling around. It drives completely fine. But as I said, I can turn those in and out, and if I turn them out, it's a lot smoother than turning them in. But yeah, it's a bike, what do you expect? Also, something I forgot to show was the way that each of the ninjas looked while riding this vehicle. So putting Nia in first, just sliding her feet into that area. You guys can see that's how Nia looks. I'll try and keep this up straight. Please stay. Alright, it didn't stay, but that's approximately straight, and that's how she looks while piloting the vehicle. And I think that the light blue emblem on her mask definitely works really well with the other light blue elements seen throughout the vehicle. And in terms of co-piloting the vehicle, just need to slide him into that little area. I think that he definitely works well as well, since he has a lot of grey on his specific suit, and there's a lot of grey on this vehicle as well. So yeah, obviously got to compliment. So overall, this vehicle is probably one of my best mocks. It's a very simple one, but in my opinion, it just looks pretty good. And the fact that I was limited to the Water Strider's pieces and Cole's blaster bike, I think I did pretty well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that the colors also worked out really well, as opposed to the durability of last time's mock. That one was atrocious. But yeah, that was mainly just because I kept the main chassis of this one, while with the previous one, I kind of changed up the chassis a lot by making it thicker, all that stuff. So obviously that one wasn't going to be as durable as this one, which is why I chose to focus on colors this time around. But anyways, tell me what you guys think down in the description below. And yeah, as I said in my previous video, a lot of my videos are going to be very sort of quick and clustered. So if you guys have noticed that in this video, I apologize for that. I've been having a lot of exams lately, been needing to study and stuff, and I see you guys next time. Bye.